This is coalition warship. I am engaged in transit passage in accordance with international law.
Every war needs an incident that triggers it. Some of these incidents are real, but many are fabricated. Take World War II, for instance.
In August of 1939, 6 German SS officers dressed as Polish freedom fighters broke into a German radio station.
The Gleiwitz incident, as it's become known, was the last in a series of staged incidents designed to justify war. It was immediately followed by a full-scale German attack against Poland.
Now fast forward to Vietnam in 1964. A U.S. destroyer is in North Vietnamese waters trying to provoke an attack. Now it's able to do so with one incident. But the second incident, the one that triggered the first large-scale U.S. engagement in Vietnam, never took place. Only 1 hour after the incident, the U.S. commander cabled back to Washington that it was nothing more than a false sonar reading. Now in 2008, the latest attempt to trigger a war via fabricated means comes from none other than Dick Cheney's office, according to Seymour Hersh. Welcome to Collateral.
There was a dozen ideas proffered how to trigger a war. The one that interested me the most was, why don't we in our shipyard build 4 or 5 boats that look like Iranian PT boats, put Navy SEALs on them with a lot of arms, and the next time one of our boats goes through the Straits of Hormuz, start a shoot-up. Might cost some lives, and it was rejected because you can't have Americans killing Americans. But that's the level of stuff we were talking about, provocation. But that was rejected.
This is a depraved idea. Now let's examine the reasons why it's not being covered appropriately.
How many press are here? Anyway, there was a meeting among the items considered and rejected, which is why the New Yorker did not publish it on grounds that it wasn't accepted.
The stated reason for the New Yorker's refusal to publish this is demonstrably weak. First off, it's news that something like this would even be suggested, since carrying it out would be treasonous. And second, nobody on the New Yorker's editorial board or Seymour Hersh himself can say for sure that the proposal was in fact rejected. It was said to be rejected at the meeting in Cheney's office, but that assures nothing, of course. Ideas this controversial only get suggested if the person suggesting them thinks they'll get a fair hearing. So what were the reasons that the idea got rejected in Cheney's office? The New Yorker should demand to know. This story requires no speculation. Hersh would only go with this story if it came from trusted sources, so why isn't it being reported? It's not as if there's no history of proposals like this. Operation Northwoods was a plan dating from the Kennedy administration that envisioned the creation of fake terror events to be blamed on Cuba. Events including the sinking of a U.S. ship in a harbor and holding mock funerals for the victims, and shooting down aircraft thought to be filled with U.S. college students. James Bamford's Body of Secrets is an excellent source for more of the sick details of Operation Northwoods. Now, Operation Northwoods was reported on in the corporate press when it broke a few years ago, but as ancient history. And Cheney's meeting is current history. And the silence on it makes you wonder if reporters aren't somehow feeling intimidated. The reality may even be worse. Perhaps reporters aren't reporting on it because they've internalized that good careerist sense that shies away from controversies like these. Hersh makes the point that the Bush administration learned from the Strait of Hormuz incident in January that if you get the right incident, the American public will support war. But they didn't learn that in January. They very likely knew that well before. They know their Göring.
Was im deutschen Volke bekannt ist. Bekannt ist im deutschen Volk, dass die sich hier unverschämt benehmen und hierher gelaufen kommen, den Reichstag anstecken und dann hier mit dem deutschen Volk.
Is there anyone left who doesn't believe that the Bush administration would fake a provocation to start a war? Ron Suskind has nailed the evidence that the Bush administration faked the evidence on WMD in Iraq. We also know that Bush and Blair in a conversation considered dressing up a U.S. spy plane as a UN plane and flying it over Iraq, hoping that Saddam Hussein would shoot it down.
There's a dynamic relationship between the behavior of corrupt leaders and those who are supposed to publish hard truths about them. Simply put, the corrupt grow bolder when the watchdogs turn a blind eye. And with respect to stories like these, it's a case of eyes wide shut. Hope to see you next week.
Operating international waters. Your identity is not known. Your intentions are unclear. You are standing into danger and may be subject to defensive measures.